Hello everybody, John Gronsky here. I talk a lot about muddy boots leadership. And that's, leadership where the leader gets out on the ground and meets with their followers and really gets a good feel of what's going on at the grassroots level. But it's harder to do in this environment of the pandemic and the COVID-19 era. As a matter of fact, I just got this email from an executive that I'm doing some consulting work for, and he asked me how he could lead better in this socially distanced environment. So I gave him 7 tips, and I want to share these 7 tips with you, and I'm going to try to share these 7 tips in 70 seconds. So here we go. The first thing is you've got to put your communication on turbo mode. You've got to over communicate to your followers. Since they're socially distanced, they're working from home, they don't have as much face-to-face contact. So you really have to make sure that you communicate with them exactly what's going on in the organization. If you don't do that, they're going to begin to make up their own narratives. And the narrative that they make up may not be the one that you want them to make up at all. And if you don't communicate with them, it could lead to discouragement, it could lead to uncertainty, and you don't want that. Hey, the second thing is you have to really focus on making your decision-making process participatory, which means you've got to ask your followers what their opinions are when you're working through a decision. And it shows people a great deal of respect when you ask them what they think. So do that. Hey, the caveat to that is if a follower makes a recommendation and you don't actually follow that recommendation, just circle back with the follower and explain to them why you are choosing a different course of action. It'll make them feel good, it'll close the loop. Next thing is success. Focus on the success your team is having, focus on the success your organization is having. I remember when I commanded a brigade over in Ramadi, Iraq. It was a large brigade. We were distributed over a very wide area of operation. And a lot of times the soldiers who were out there, doing their daily task, really didn't know the great success that our brigade was having. So about once every 2 weeks or so, I put out a success message to the soldiers in the brigade so they understood the successes that our overall organization was having. You've got to do that too. Again, with people socially distanced, they're focused on their own little bubble of work that they're doing in their home. They may not be aware of the success that the team is having overall. So make sure you inform people on your team about the success that the organization is having. The next thing is share yourself. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. A lot of people are dealing with different emotions during this COVID-19 era. And let people know how you're dealing with the situation. Let people know what techniques you're using to stay fit, to stay positive. Share those techniques with your followers. They would really appreciate it, and they could probably use that type of advice. The other thing is you have to continue to meet with your followers one-on-one as much as possible. If you've got to do it virtually, do it virtually. But try to do it face-to-face when you could. I've got a friend who is the owner of a sales training organization. And he told me that at least once a week, he will have lunch at a picnic area with one of the people who work for him. And he'll either bring his lunch or buy his lunch, and the person he's going to meet with will bring their own lunch with them. And then they'll meet at a picnic area. It's outside, it's in a safe environment, and they could have a good one-on-one conversation. So try that technique. You've got to continue to meet with people one-on-one as much as you could, face-to-face as much as you could. The other thing is you've got to stay positive. You've got to be optimistic. Optimism isn't about looking at challenges through rose-colored glasses. Optimism is looking at challenges and inspiring people who work for you to believe that the future is going to be brighter, that you and the rest of the team are going to be able to overcome those challenges. So stay positive. Last thing is you've got to do what can be done. Focus on what can be done. A lot of times we'll watch the news and the media is telling us what we can't do. Some of our government officials are telling us what we can't do. Well, you as the leader of your organization have to focus your folks on what you can do, what can be done in this COVID-19 environment. There's still a lot of opportunities out there. You've got to focus on those opportunities. So there's 7 things you can do as a leader to lead in this era of the pandemic, in this COVID-19 era. And I hope you put those to good use. And I want to encourage you to stay positive and go get them.